Great. Good evening and welcome to the January 18th, 2024 Open Space Conservation Trust video meeting. I'm Geraldine Poor, the chair of the Open Space Conservancy Trust Board, and tonight's board meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel. Park Operations Manager Sam Harb, Natural Resource Project Manager Lizzie Stone, and Senior Administrative Assistant Francesca Zager are participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or via the internet. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining tonight. So please, trustees, ensure that your microphone is turned on for the roll call. And I'll hand that over to Sam.
Yeah, Chair Poor.
Here.
Vice Chair Ete. Secretary Bender.
Here.
Trustee Brissett. Trustee Olson.
Here.
Council Liaison Indro.
Here.
Trustee Hildebrand.
Here.
Great. Thank you, Sam. So trustees, before we start the business of tonight's meeting, I want to suggest a few rules to help the meeting run smoothly. If a board member has a question, please use your raise hand feature, and I'll do my best to recognize the trustees in the order in which hands are raised. Everyone will be asked to limit himself or herself to one question and one clarifying question if necessary, so that each trustee has a chance to ask a question before a board member is given a chance to ask a second question. It's important that each trustee has an opportunity to speak or ask a question before a second question is asked. And additionally, prior to speaking, please state your name for those listening in on the meeting. And Sam, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the trust?
There's not. No.
Let's launch then into the meeting. The first item of regular business is to review and approve the October 19th, 2023 minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 19th, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
Thanks, Tom. And
Second.
a second. Thank you, Lisa, council member.
You can say Lisa, please.
There's a motion by Tom and a second by Lisa. All to approve the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
No, I have my eye. All right.
Great. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. The second item of regular business is the 2023 annual report and the 2024 work plan. And those will be, the annual report will be sent to City Council. So we now welcome Lizzie Stone and Sam Harb.
Hello, my name is Lizzie Stone. I am the Natural Resources Project Manager with the City of Mercer Island. I'm going to talk through the annual report to Council and then pass it back over to our Parks Operations Manager, Sam Harb, to talk about our work plan for 2024. So as you know, there was an ordinance that established the Open Space Conservancy Trust, and that requires that the trust puts together a report for City Council each year on its activities in the past year and the condition of the trust properties. I'm going to go over it briefly. Y'all have already seen it. And then, so I won't read the whole thing. But after I walk through it pretty briefly, trustees are welcome to discuss the report and suggest any changes. And then staff will work with the chair to finalize the report and present it to City Council on the consent agenda on March 5th, 2024. So in 2023, the Open Space Conservancy Trust Board met 4 times quarterly in January, April, July, and October. We elected Trustee Geraldine Poor as the chair, Trustee Hillary Ete as the vice chair, and Trustee Marie Bender as secretary. The Natural Resources and Parks team did a lot of work on trust property this year. The Natural Resources team this year consists of Sam Harb, our Parks Operations Manager, myself, Lizzie Stone, the Natural Resources Project Manager, Andrew Prince, the Urban Forestry Project Manager, as well as Jordan Fisher, our Volunteer Coordinator, and Rebecca Graham, our Trails and Restoration Team Leader. We also had 2 shorter-term seasonal staff over the summer. Notably, in 2023, we hired that limited-term volunteer coordinator position, Jordan Fisher's position, after having successfully piloted that position in 2022. We also brought on our Trails and Restoration Team Leader, Rebecca, and that position is a 9-month seasonal role that allows her to stay on through the fall and to help support some of our fall tasks on trust properties and elsewhere. We made a lot of really good strides with forest management on trust property in 2023. We worked with contractors and our seasonal crew and volunteers and Washington Conservation Corps in order to accomplish this work. And in summary, overall, we were able to conduct first-year comprehensive weed removal on 10.5 acres of trust property. That is in Engstrom Open Space, Pioneer Northeast, and Pioneer Southeast. We were able to do 9.2 acres of second-year removal. That is on the areas that had received first-year removal last year, and we planted 617 trees and shrubs. I'm summarizing all of the work that happened with contractors, our volunteers, and our seasonal crew, just because so as to not be too repetitive here. Our volunteer coordinator and our forest stewards, many of you are forest stewards, so y'all maybe know this already. We hosted 22 events in Pioneer Park this year, or in 2023, and that brought out 343 volunteers for 717 hours. Those folks were able to put in 242 trees and shrubs and clear ivy from well over 15,000 square feet of the forest floor. So pretty excited about that progress. And also of note, those 22 events, that is double the number of events that we had in 2022 in Pioneer Park. So pretty happy with that increase in the amount of volunteer engagement and the events that we're hosting there. The seasonal crew did a lot of work in Pioneer Park this year, focusing on doing park checks, which means emptying the garbage cans, making sure there are wag bags for dog owners to use. They did a lot of trail brushing and blowing, re-graveling muddy sections of trail, clearing the culverts to redirect water where possible. They also conducted noxious weed surveys and treatment of some noxious weeds, as well as supporting some of those volunteer events, which includes watering of the plants that were put in last year for volunteers. This year in 2023, we were awarded a contract with the Washington Conservation Corps to have 50 crew days on the island in the 2023 and 2024 year. This contract, a lot of those crew days are being spent in Pioneer Park. So far in November and December of 2023, we have had the crews working on graveling and decommissioning a trail that we had that the trust board had approved decommissioning back in April. So happy to get that done. They worked on ivy rings, they planted trees, and they also did a pretty heavy lift of completing first-year comprehensive removal on 1.9 acres of Pioneer Park Southeast. That was pretty impressive amount of work to get done in November. And just to be clear, that 1.9 acres is included in the 10.5 acres that I referred to earlier. I also wanted to touch on our progress with the Forest Health Plan and the transition from the benchmarks that we have been using with the Forest Health Plan. Previously, we had been working on benchmarks that were set out in that Forest Health Plan, though in recent years, increasing costs of restoration and contracting challenges had slowed our progress on those benchmarks. In 2022, in November 2022, we passed, y'all passed the Parks Levy that funds a lot more restoration work in Pioneer Park and Engstrom Open Space. And this levy establishes a new timeline for restoring the health of trust property, Pioneer Park and Engstrom. So we are kind of resetting our benchmarks for the work that we're doing and measuring against the benchmarks that we set out as with our levy timeline in mind. That's a 16-year levy. In order to complete 3 years of comprehensive weed removal throughout trust property by 2038, which is 16 years later, we need to enroll about 6.5 acres, new acres of land in year 1 comprehensive removal every year up until 2036. That also includes, of course, doing the 2nd year and the 3rd year, and then maintenance on those same areas every 4 years afterwards. In 2023, as I mentioned, we did 10.5 acres, which is pretty significantly more than the 6.5 that we had aimed to do. So we're getting a good head start on those goals. We also did 2nd year comprehensive removal on 9.2 acres that received their first treatment last year, as well as planting trees, 617 trees and shrubs in total. Update on the letterboxing program. We did restart the letterboxing program in 2023. This was after a 3-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We placed letterboxes in the southeast quadrant and distributed those booklets at the community center and at our volunteer events. We had 100 people collect booklets from us at one of those locations, and 26 people returned them. We recognize that those folks that did return in their booklets by having a certificate printed for them and then offering a prize packet to any of the folks who wanted to come by and pick it up from the community center. The leash policy on trust property, we did distribute brochures at the park's kiosks, which teach park users about the rules around voice and signal control and the locations of off-leash versus on-leash areas on trust property as well as other parks. And then on our trails, I have mentioned a bit the work that the seasonal crew had done to maintain our trails so far. But to summarize that, they did conduct regular trail brushing, leaf blowing, and culvert clearing. They re-graveled muddy sections of trail. And then also we had the Washington Conservation Corps decommission a short redundant section of trail in Pioneer Park Northeast. Finally, the last 2 items on this annual report are the Engstrom title transfer, which we will be talking a bit more about today. In September 2022, the City Council passed a resolution to transfer the title of Engstrom Open Space to the Open Space Conservancy Trust. And this title transfer has been assigned to outside legal counsel to move it along earlier this year, 2024. And then lastly, just to touch on the urban forestry that takes place on trust property, we do have certified staff arborists that make some recommendations to remove dead or dying or structurally defective trees in order to reduce the risk of trees falling and causing injury or damage. We did remove 2 trees this year to reduce the risk of tree failure, and the staff are continuing to monitor the boundaries of the park and make sure that our trees are low risk and safe. So that's the end of my summary of the annual report, and I believe I'm going to pass it over to Sam from here.
Yeah, thank you, Lizzie. Sam Hart, Parks Operations Manager. I'm going to share my screen and just run through the work plan. Right.
Sam, while you're moving into that, could we note that Carol has joined us, trust member Carol Bursa, during Lizzie's presentation.
Yes,
Welcome.
thanks for the recognition. I apologize for my delay.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. I've noted that in the attendance. So going into the 2024 work plan, it'll probably look fairly similar. You all can see my screen, right? The Word document. It'll look pretty similar.
Sam, I can see it, but can you blow it up a little bit? I don't know if you can or not, but.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Oh yeah, very helpful. Thank you so much.
All right, this meeting, January 18th meeting, we've got 4 meetings on the schedule for the year. Annual report to City Council, that's just what Lizzie went through. The open space work plan for the year, which is this document. I will touch on the Engstrom title transfer. I have a story project update, And then quadrant reports are an ongoing item. And then moving into the April meeting, we have the trails work plan as well as the restoration work plan. And then backed by popular demand, we have the draft bylaws review. So city staff has been reviewing an update to the format of the bylaws. So actually have been working on a document with our staff. We are going to have legal counsel review it, and then our plan is at the April meeting. That's when we will be able to present it to the trust to be able to look at it. It might not get done in that meeting. I fully recognize that, so we can push it into the future one if needed. It is a reformatting. It has some different language. The substance is still fairly similar, but it's just bringing it online with a lot of the other board and commissions bylaws. So I recognize that could take a little bit more review just to be able to, you know, look at the old one and the new one and sort of get a handle of what changed. It certainly took me a little bit of time to go through that. So we'll have that ready for April, and then give it the time it needs to move forward with that. And then additionally, you know, one thing I noticed with the bylaws review is per our bylaws, we're only required to meet twice a year. And so we've been hovering around 6 to 4 times a year the last few years. And so if the four meetings a year is something that makes more sense for this group, then maybe we can address that in the bylaws or maybe change the language a little bit. And then moving into the July meeting, we have the election of officers as well as the herbicide application report. And then another thing that is helpful for planning for the next year is we'll look at the schedule of meetings for 2025, as well as any off-leash dog topics or updates that need to be discussed. And then if we do have Eagle Project participation in the trust properties, then we will certainly recognize those as well. Yeah, and then I think that's about it, but I have to speak on with that.
Thank you so much, Sam. Is there, open the floor for discussion? Let's start with Craig Olson.
Thanks. I was wondering, maybe we should put the word scout for Eagle Project. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think that probably is more inclusive.
Other comments? I'd like to make one comment about some of the engagement with the community. I know in past years, we, as board members, have participated in the Leap for Green Fair when that happens in April. And at one point in time, I mean, for a period of time, it was appropriate for the letterboxing people to come to an evening meeting that we had when we were meeting live at the council chambers. And I recognize with hybrid meetings, that doesn't make sense. I'm so pleased to hear that 26, you know, from Liz's report, that 26 people participated and got certificates. And I would like to propose discussion on whether some of these kinds of events should be part of our work plan. While I recognize that city staff does a lot of the work, I think the board does try to participate. I know we've staffed a table at the Leap for Green, for example. So staff, do you know if a date has been set for Leap for Green or if it will happen this?
Lizzie might know.
Lizzie knows. I believe the Leap for Green is scheduled for April 20th this year.
Oh, fun. So with regard to that, it'd be great maybe if you could send us an email if we're interested in participating in the table, because our meeting will be just 2 days before that, so we'll have to plan if we want to participate. But what is the recommendation about including anything like that in the work plan?
I'm not sure if it's necessary. I think the work plan is more about the trust as a body, and if
Okay.
the trust had quorum in a public event, then in the potential of discussing any like trust activities or whatever. I know we have to kind of navigate that carefully. So it would have to be considered we would have to give notice as a public meeting if it was legitimate or on this work plan, I'd say. But I think we can definitely still plan to do it. I think we just have to make sure to treat that as an outreach event and not necessarily a
Board meeting.
public meeting.
Yeah, perfect. Any other comments from other trust members? Tom?
Yes, thank you. I last year suggested that we take another look at the bylaws due to the fact that we were engaged in having Zoom meetings as a matter of course. And the last time that we reviewed the bylaws, I made the suggestion that we might want to relax the language on remote participation. It seems it's become pretty much de facto that people participate remotely. And so if there is language in the bylaws that require in-person participation, that's somewhat passé. So I was just going to mention that we might avoid a revision cycle if we give direction to staff to remove that language and sort of accept the reality of modern hybrid meeting structure.
Yeah, I think there is some language in that in the new version, and we can definitely modernize that. But there's also other items of the bylaws that I'm sure we'll want to review.
So is there, for example, standard language that's been taken from other boards and commissions and added to the draft that you're preparing that would address the meeting structure?
I believe so. I believe it's an updated format that takes into consideration the remote meetings and Zoom meetings, hybrid meetings, that kind of thing.
Okay, so that would be reasonable, I believe, to review it at that time.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Hand up.
Go ahead, please.
And hand down. Are we planning on, and I may have missed the October meeting, so I apologize if this has been discussed. Are we planning on going back to in-person with a hybrid option, or are we going to stay 100% remote?
I don't know yet. I think we will get to a point where we'll have some sort of in-person option. I think there's certainly reasons to, like, if we do have an in-person recognition of scouts or other boxing folks, it might be good to get to that point. But as you know, and with the new setup at the community center, it's still kind of getting worked out and figured out. And I haven't been directed to, or we haven't started that process for this board yet.
Yeah,
But-
okay. Well, and for my 2 cents, I can go either way, but I know that it is an additional staff burden to set up an in-person meeting in terms of resources, getting the room ready and everything else. And in a situation where nobody from the public is going to appear, it seems like that might not be the best use of staff time.
Yeah, noted.
If I may, we might just have a show of hands of people who prefer an in-person format. If that would be okay, Chair, for.
Let's just do that as part of our discussion. Do you want to give a thumbs up on screen if you would prefer to be in person? And we've got 2, 3, good. And prefer the hybrid or the Zoom option that we have now. I think 3 and 3. All right. There's your clear direction, staff.
I guess Hillary gets to cast the deciding vote.
All right. Any other comments on the work plan? Marie.
So I just would add to that. I don't want to force people to have an in-person meeting. I think it's the best option is to have it available to Zoom in. But I think we lose a lot of important interaction among ourselves if we are always on a Zoom. There's just never any opportunity for casual conversation and getting to know each other. And the poor person who joins us next, I don't know how that person's gonna figure out who else is on the board and what we have in common. And so I'm very much in favor of in-person meetings with the option of, if I'm not available but I can Zoom in, I think people should be able to do that. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. So is there anyone we haven't heard from on the work plan? Carol, do you have anything you want to add? Comment on the work plan? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the work plan?
So move.
I'd move approval.
Oh, okay, go
Second.
ahead.
I'll second.
All right. Moved and approved by Lisa and Craig and Tom. Thanks. I mean, moved and seconded. So all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any concerns, say nay. Thank you. Okay, good discussion about meetings too. The third item of regular business is the Engstrom title transfer update, and Sam will update us on that.
Yeah, so back in September of 22, council passed a resolution to direct the city to transfer the title of Engstrom to the Open Space Conservancy Trust. And this, due to just capacity issues on our city manager's office, we haven't been able to do much on that the past year. However, just recently, we've been meeting with outside counsel. We do have an attorney or a practice that's specialized in land use and this sort of thing, that titles and trusts and that we've worked with before, that knows a lot of the history of city properties and some of these unique situations. And we've met with them this week, and things are moving in the right direction. There's not too much I can share specifically, but the attorney has asked for staff to provide them with certain information that they need, and we're just working together. And it just doesn't seem like there's any limitations or anything in the way from getting that done. So I don't want to promise any timelines right now, but it is being worked on, and I expect it to go well.
Thank you, Sam. And I think it was member Hildebrandt who brought that forward to us. So thank you, Tom. The fourth item of regular business is the story project, the QR codes, and Sam will provide an update.
All right, everybody can see my PowerPoint. Yeah,
Sam, I forgot, I meant to lead into this by saying at one of our last meetings, in 2023, we had asked if there were things that could be done to provide more information about the park to the public. And it's my understanding that this is in response to our request. I really wanted to thank staff for delving in on this one too. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so Pioneer Park story maps, the QR in the story is for the QR codes, but you can just refer to it as story maps. So a little bit of background in the July and October 23 meetings, the trust and staff, we discussed this a little bit, updating signage in the park and potentially bringing it up to speed to utilize technology, highlighting historical uses of the land or just other aspects we want to highlight. The city currently uses this story map platform, linking public art and items of historical or cultural significance to online content with QR codes. I became familiar with this when our maintenance crews were tasked with installing little metal pedestals with signage in relation to some of the public art in the parks. And they'll typically have like it'll be a small sign with a description, the title of the art piece, and then a QR code that links to website information and just a lot more information of other art installations throughout the city. So current uses of our story system or story codes, the Greta Hackett Outdoor Sculpture Gallery, we have most of the art pieces throughout there has these signs on them. Our public art collection all throughout the city. Highlighted on the right is the Gateway of Service art installation. This is at Fire Station 92, just across the street from Pioneer Park. This is constructed from materials from the World Trade Centers after the September 11th attacks. And this is an example of some of the public art that has the story code associated with it. Additionally, Riley Cove and Lincoln Landing, that's a newly designated geographical area and renovated park with signage that is included in the story code or the story maps. The screenshot on the right is kind of what the platform looks like from the app, from like the phone application. So that's just an example of how we're currently using the story platform. And then let's see. I think I missed the slide, but essentially next steps, it's a platform that's subscription based. The city's in the process of upgrading our account that will just enhance it and allow it to sync up with other story maps that are in neighboring cities and things like that. The hardest part of this project would be developing content, and so what we propose for this project is utilizing our existing signage and kiosks and installing these QR codes with throughout Pioneer Park with several categories, including indigenous peoples or indigenous uses of the property or the land, wildlife, ecology, natural history, contemporary history, restoration work, volunteer work, all of that, as well as rules of the park. The Pioneer Park has specific animal, dogs and equestrian uses and different rules for different areas. So those are all examples of the content we can develop and have accessible in this digital way. Printing and installing the signage is another consideration that has some cost, but it's not huge cost. And so I think we've been kind of brainstorming some of this with staff, and I think that this is a project that we already have a lot of the infrastructure to be able to implement it, and it'll take some time and research developing the content for it, but I think with the existing educational materials we have and just things we're already doing with the park, I think we can make a pretty good start at it in 2024.
Thank you. I'm sorry that Hillary wasn't able to join us tonight because I know she had a lot of ideas and thoughts about this too, but do other members of the board want to say, comment or provide input? Lisa and then Marie, please.
Yeah, Sam, thanks for moving forward with this. I don't know if I've expressed my mixed feelings about this because, in the parks, ideally, people would not be on their phones, but beyond that, I guess you're not going to keep them off their phones. And if we can build a deeper appreciation of the park and the historical and natural significance by giving them more information, then that's wonderful. The QR codes are really unobtrusive and as opposed to a great big placard with pictures and 1,000 words on it. It's probably a nice way to go. I also finally, after using the word QR codes for like 20 years, I finally had to look up what it meant. And it's quick response.
Thank you. Glad to know that. Marie?
So first of all, Sam, and I'm sure Lizzie was involved with this too, but thank you. It's really kind of gratifying to see it actually going somewhere. And I like the steps. They make sense and we'll get there eventually. I guess in terms of budgeting, is there any reason this can't be budgeted out of the bond issue? I don't know if you've thought about that, but it seems to me like a logical way of using bond issue money.
The levy funding,
Yeah.
that's pretty well tied to specific restoration work, and what we're talking about doing right now, this level is something that really would have a relatively low cost,
Right.
that we feel comfortable, staff can absorb with just the same type of operational funds we use for doing any kind of replacements in the park, or adding furnishings or things like that. But if it got to the point where it turned into more of a capital project or an expensive project, then that's where additional funding would be required. But I think at the level that we're proposing right now, it's not a huge cost. I think there's potentially, like with the Arts Council and some of the things we're doing at Luther Burbank Park, planning for the future with incorporating the Historical Society with some of our outreach and educational future story maps there, that involves volunteers or sometimes outside groups or organizations. And so that's something that we could enlist the help of either the trust or volunteers that are familiar with the properties and do a lot of the restoration work if we felt like we needed to engage that extra help. But specifically for the levy funding, my understanding is that was specifically for the on the ground restoration work that we're trying to do.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is I would kind of like to propose that maybe a subset of the commission work with staff. I kind of feel like I'd like to be more than passively involved. I suspect Hillary would feel the same way, but I don't necessarily want to speak for her. So if we could sort of think about that, it's kind of offered out of interest, but also out of trying to help the staff and put some time in on a volunteer basis. So maybe just put that in your thinking cap and let us know if we can do something.
Absolutely. I welcome that, and I think potentially a subcommittee could be suitable for something like this. I don't think we've really utilized it recently, but that could be something where a smaller subset of the group here could work on that and have some input. So I can look into that, like what's involved, and if there's interest, we can work together on some of that. Sure.
Thank you.
Carol. You get to unmute first.
There you go. Yeah, I agree. I think this really, there's a need for this to go forward. Although on the surface, it seems as though it's intrusive to allow people with cell phones. They're going to bring them anyway. But as I watch my daughter, you know, kind of the younger generation interact with their environment, you know, that is how they interact. And I think that you know, I often see her pull out her phone, you know, and aim it at the code. And I think it's a really nice way to add some depth and education to a variety of aspects of what is a very unique resource to Mercer Island. You know, I find it's, you know, really educational myself, you know, when I go on walks there with Marie and Heidi, you know, I'm always learning things about, you know, the different flora and fauna that we're seeing. So I think that the public at large would really find that to be an enhanced experience. So, you know, and I'm sure it would be helpful to have many eyes looking at what's included in the project, because you know, it's not going to be just statues or you know hard objects. You know, it may be that there are a variety of ways that we need to approach this, and it may be that you know, many eyes would take this further. So I'm definitely excited about seeing this go forward.
Thank you so much. Tom or Craig, do you have anything you'd like to add? Well, great. I think we look forward to more feedback from you, Sam, and in the coming meetings. Hearty endorsement of the project, as you heard. Well, mixed, mostly hearty, with a bit of
Oh, no, I endorse it. Like I said, it's just, I can't change human nature.
perfect. In other business, Sam, do you have any updates for us from the city or the department?
Yeah, I've got a few slides. I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, got a department report for everyone, January 18th, 2024. Just reminding, accessing city services, City Hall is currently closed for good, and we still have everybody working either remotely or at other city facilities. So our customer service team is very helpful, and they can be reached at their phone number or by email. We also have our service request system that can be accessed from the link at the bottom from our website, or the MI Connect app, which goes straight to our crews and gets things taken care of in the field. Roanoke Park Playground, that's slated for our next replacement on our capital improvement plan. Earlier, it closed about a week ago, but we had a public survey open for that. And then we have a virtual public meeting, I assume, where some of the survey results might be revealed, and then just some more information about that engagement process with the community. So if you're interested in learning more about that or having input, you can watch that virtual public meeting and get more information from the Let's Talk page. Some parks and natural resources updates. Our crews did some tree chipping in the Greta Hackett Outdoor Sculpture Gallery. We've done some repainting of, we repainted the interior of Dean's Children's Park restroom, just some different winter projects going on. Island Crest Park South baseball field. See the lights there on the bottom right. We've had some electrical repairs, bulb replacements that's improved the lighting at that facility. And then Washington Conservation Corps continues to work with us this winter. Wind, ice, and snow. This month and this past season, we've had typical storm season weather. Unfortunately, one of our maintenance vehicles at the top right there was damaged from a tree. Got a lot of ice as of this week, and just different things going on related to the weather. The Trails and Natural Resources crew, or currently lone team member Rebecca, done some brushing along the parking area at the northeast quadrant of Pioneer Park. That was brought up in a previous meeting. We've had some issues with a pest, European chafer, causing turf damage at many of the turf areas, mostly in Aubrey Davis Park. The grub larva stage gets it's a food source for raccoons and birds, and so they damage the grass when they're digging that stuff up. Little repeat of the WCC crew working. And then earlier this week, Lizzie, as well as several other staff, reported to City Council on some of the levy updates, as well as some different capital improvement plan items. So that was good to just get more information out there if you're interested in catching up on that meeting. It's posted on our YouTube page. And then a little more information on our volunteer program year in review. Jordan created this one-page handout, which just kind of lays out the different stats for the volunteer work in 2023. And then Lizzie already mentioned this a little bit, but this was a certificate that the letterboxing participants were awarded after they completed their booklets, and just another thank you to all the folks who participated. And then Rebecca on the left, that was our team leader for the Trails and Natural Resources crew, and Bree on the right. Bree ended her season a couple months ago, and then Rebecca is just about done with us. And so thank you to both of them for their work this past season.
That was great. Any questions or comments on that? I would, perhaps this is better under the topic for future conversation, but I will say that I was in the park this week and saw that there will be work parties in Pioneer Park, I think on January 27th and February 10th and February 29th. So if anyone has time to get out and volunteer, those are a couple Pioneer Park options. It seems like Jordan's doing a great job of getting everyone all around the island. Thank you for that update. Any other comments before we go to quadrant reports? Let's start in the Northwest with Carol and Tom.
Well, I've had a chance to take a couple of turns around the Northwest quadrant with the dogs recently, and things are generally looking pretty good. I noticed there was a tree which was blown down near the eastern entrance, and that was cleared away promptly. And some work has been done to bring in gravel and fill in the low spaces on the interior trails. And some of that was under 2 inches of water this afternoon. So let's just keep it up. It was icy in the park So that's probably causing some of the water to be retained, and it'll drain off when things thaw out. And that's about it for my report.
Yeah, I would echo those comments. One comment I would make is that, I see that it's an incredibly popular place. After the last severe storm where we were all locked up for 3 or 4 days, my grandson and I went over there to walk, and there were lots and lots of us out there walking. So I think that it's a sign that it's a very important resource in the community that provides emotional support to the community as a whole. So, but it's well maintained and it's looking good. And then I think we just have to be careful about monitoring, when these major storms come through, and I'm sure the team does that. It's not really up for us to be identifying those. But I think that we're still in the midst of winter, and are probably going to have a couple of more challenges. But I think the team is very good about identifying things and rectifying them.
That's great. Thanks. Marie, you're in the Northeast quadrant. And you're on mute. There we go.
I know. I have to admit that I've been mostly in the Northwest quadrant because I have an off-leash dog. So I haven't been in Northeast too recently. I have noticed a lot of gravel work, which I'm very happy about. And things are generally cleaned up. So seems like things are going along fine.
Excellent. Craig, you ready?
Oh, sure. First time I experienced frost heave in the park, like Tom was talking about how frozen it was. I was out there last weekend, and on the trail down at the bottom where it's a little wet anyway all the year round, on the east side of the Southeast quadrant, there were people's footsteps that went 2 inches into the trail, which was really interesting. And hopefully that'll all just get back to normal when things thaw out, which I'm sure that's going to happen. But that was really interesting. I couldn't believe it. Looked like Bigfoot went walking through. So very interesting. But otherwise, everything looks great.
Good deal. I also went through the Southeast quadrant and saw things looking good. But I also wanted to comment on the kiosk area in the Northwest quadrant. I was just there today and was so intrigued to see someone on staff made laminated plant identification cards. So you can go by the kiosk and grab something and then walk around and use that to get names of plants, to identify plants. The porta potty was clean, and we ran across a couple gentlemen workers from a city truck carrying working in the park today. So that's a 4-hour-old report. And I think that brings us towards the end of our meeting. We have a topics for future discussion standing item. Is there anything people want to add for future discussion? I think we look forward to more progress on the QR code story maps. And other than that, we'll proceed with the work plan. Going once, going twice. And my script doesn't call for a motion to adjourn, so I'll go ahead and not do a motion. I'll assume that we're all ready, and the next open space meeting is scheduled for April 18th at 5 p.m. There being no other business to come before the Conservancy Trust, the time is now 6:08 and the meeting's adjourned. Trustees, please still stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening and stay healthy.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.